Hey everybody, it's me, Josh, Hope Paranormal, and I am bringing you a really cool video, a little bit different than what I normally do. I wanted to answer a lot of the questions I've been asked over the years, which I do. I respond to most comments, most questions, and I try to get to all of them if I can, which I can't always, but I do as many as possible. And I have been asked some wonderful questions from skeptics over the years. You know, how does this work? And how do we know it's really them? How do we know it's not demons? And all these other great things. And if you come to me with respect and you ask me, I will always answer it. I've always said this work is 100% real. I'll do it in front of anybody, anywhere, anytime. I have no problem with that. And I thought, what a great idea to do a short video where I incorporate and ask my patrons and YouTube members to ask me these questions. Now there's always those small pocket out there of people that just don't get what I'm doing, and they make little attack videos and things like that, and it's a shame. It's a very small percentage, and unfortunately they're just not educated enough to understand what it is I'm doing. They're working in a very narrow box and they don't want to expand, take in new information, and so this is not for them. This is for the people that are respectful and care and want to know if what I'm doing is real and how this really works. Spirits are able to manipulate audio. That's what they're able to do. They're able to manipulate audio from radios, from different sound sources, frenetic sounds, ambient sounds. It's amazing, and it's been proven over the years. It's been proven in my work, it's been proven of course in Steve Huff's work, and many others that do this work. And so I thought today would be a great opportunity to hand these questions out to my members and patrons and have them ask me and answer. Now I could expand a lot more with these answers, but so the video isn't an hour long, I figured, you know, I'll touch on all the key points. So let's go right into it. So what question do we have first? Who's going to ask our first question?
Deborah.
Okay, Deb.
Josh, the dead know nothing. How do you know you're not speaking to demons?
It's a great question. I have been told many times that because of the Bible, it states that in different verses that, you know, the dead know nothing. They sleep, waiting for judgment. That these are familiar voices, familiar spirits, and that they're all demons. The types of messages that myself and people like Steve Huff have received, the majority of those responses are positive messages telling us to pray, ask for the light. They mention Jesus, they mention God. There are messages that we have asked loved ones and we get specific answers to. What is the point of these demons coming through and giving us messages of love, mentioning Jesus? It doesn't make sense. Can someone interfere, that's a negative spirit, interfere with these sessions? Can they pretend to be someone else? Absolutely. It's again a possibility. But I believe in my protection with my higher power. I believe in Jesus Christ. That's my own personal Savior. I believe in that. It doesn't mean everyone else has to have that idea of God, but I believe in that protection. And so I don't believe that every spirit that comes through is some demon telling me to pray to Jesus so that later on they can pounce on me. Extending compassion and love to someone and receiving it back in a response, it's a positive thing. There's a lot of other information that kind of counters that, which I can show you a little bit of. Everything with the light or something I heard. I don't know what that means. That sounds like, come along if you like. Sounds like I'm getting answers. Protection, team of light. Just. You found the light already. All right, who's next? Who's got another question?
Why do you use the DR60 recorder that was said by the company to be defective?
That's a great question. So the DR60 recorder, everyone has them now. A lot of people have tried to locate them. And this, to me, is one of the best recorders to use. It is not always the clearest, but it is one of the best. Panasonic made this in the 90s. It was a cheap recorder. They released it and they got reports there were voices heard on the recorder when someone didn't say something. People sent the recorder back, and Panasonic said that there was a glitch in the recorder, that the internals create some kind of defect. A lot of the skeptics say the DR60 is useless for this. It's not a proper recorder, that there's better EVPs captured on other recorders. I will say I have captured some clear EVPs on other recorders, but this recorder is giving us spirit response. It is a little touchy, but if I ask a question on this recorder and I get a 1-word or 2-word answer that's clear, I mean, it's clearly spirit speaking. That is my opinion. I have done an experiment with a forensic audio expert named Ed Primo, where I invited my guide Michael to partake in this experiment, and he spoke 1-word answers. He repeated what I asked him. He said his name. And this forensic audio expert, who has worked on a lot of high-profile cases, confirmed that he heard what sounded like what I had captioned it to be. Who is here with me? Which guide is with me right now? Okay.
Who is here with me? Which guide is with me right now?
Michael. Is it possible, Michael, if you can, to just say Ed Primo's name?
Is it possible, Michael, if you can, to just say Ed Primo's name?
All right, who's next with another question?
Hi, Josh. This is Lori.
Hey, Lori.
Make out any of the messages through the recorder. Without captions, I really can't hear any. Totally indiscernible.
Okay, so the question is, how am I even making out what's being said on this type of recorder? And I'm going to go back to who I just brought up, Ed Primo. He wrote a book about listening to voices. Now, what he does is not paranormal. What he does is he'll take a recording of 2 people talking, and for court cases, the prosecutor will send him this recording and ask him to transcribe it, ask him if he can, make out what is being said. Now, he speaks about his process in doing this. When he first sits down and listens to these responses, he may not get it right away. He may have to come back with fresh ears, so it takes him time. Now, if I gave that same recording to anyone on the street and said, without captions, here, listen to these 2 mob figures talk about something. Can you make out what they're saying? Or look at these captions that this forensic audio expert put on this recording. Do you hear what he is captioned? And hearing it one time and then saying, no, I don't hear that. This person is not qualified. The person on the street that just hears it for the first time is not qualified to just say after hearing it one time that these captions, this is not what's being said. Like a forensic audio expert, that's what I do. I hear one recording and I listen to it over a number of different times, over a number of different days. If I can't make it out, I don't put captions on it. But this idea that someone who doesn't do this, doesn't have a trained ear, is going to hear this one time and know what is being said by closing their eyes and listening is ridiculous. It's pretty much canceling out what a forensic audio expert does. It takes someone who does this. Anyone that spends time working on these kinds of recordings is going to start getting a trained ear in hearing these kinds of responses. Okay, who's got another question?
Okay, you recently did a session with Kobe Bryant. I'm wondering, why would a celebrity want to respond to a random person?
It's a great question. First of all, I don't think I'm any more special than anyone else. I don't think I've been chosen, but I have been guided to do this work. And I've been doing it almost for 8 years now. And clearly, if anyone has seen my videos, you know that I'm a pretty respectful person and I care about spirit. The name of my group is HOPE, Helpers of Paranormal Entities. So I am trying to help. But why would someone like Anthony Bourdain or Kobe Bryant or Mac Miller or XXXTentacion come through? Wouldn't they want to spend time with their family? Or why would they even answer some guy that they don't even know? Well, this is my belief on that. And a response that came through in the Kobe session was, he knows you'll help. Or take a
any of your time, but because I like to offer this out of respect to the ones that I can.
Now, I don't know why he knows that. I don't think that Kobe knew of me. That doesn't make any sense. But I believe that my guides, the spirit helpers, there are many on the other side that are willing to help, that are doing so. And I believe that they can communicate with these other souls that I'm trying to communicate with, that I'm trying to talk to. I believe my guides and spirits actually told Kobe, hey, there's a guy that he's willing to help you. Do you want to come through for him? Do you want to speak? Is there anything you want to say? Can you imagine if there's only a few people, Can you imagine if there's only a few people in the world that is able to effectively record a session, connect with that spirit, and be able to, extract these responses from the session in a clear enough manner for people to hear it, that you may become known in the spirit world? I think that's a possibility. So that's my response to why a celebrity could possibly come through for an average guy like myself. All right, who's next?
Okay, I have a question. When you die, you go to heaven, everything's supposed to be all nice and happy and everything going good, not sad. Can you explain why the spirits would say that they're upset?
Connie just asked a question of, when we die, it's said that we're supposed to go right to heaven and that we should be happy, no sickness, no bad feelings, no fear. Why do spirits talk about being sad or having emotions still or being upset in some way? The Bible talks about there is hell, there's purgatory, there's heaven, and that's if you're Catholic. Other religions believe other things. The Tibetan Book of the Dead talks about the bardos, the different levels. There's a lot of different beliefs in each religion. So whatever someone's belief is, that's become fact to them. Even though there's no evidence to back exactly what was said in the Bible or the Quran or these different passages or whatever, they go on that. That's their faith, that's their belief, and that's it. So anything else coming through paranormal investigation, afterlife research that suggests anything otherwise is false, that we're being lied to. That's what people think, and I don't believe that one bit. If you believe that you can live however you want to live in this life, and that when you die, that you're zipped off to heaven, and that you're given all the knowledge of all the universe, and all the troubles are wiped away, I don't believe that. And now, after doing this much of research, after this many years, I certainly don't believe that.
Michael, are we going to be able to help anyone with the light tonight if they need it?
Does that mean that people are not going to heaven? No, people are going to heaven all the time, and they're speaking about it. They're speaking about heaven. They're speaking about the light. I think there's a time for adjustment. I think that spirit, because of what has been said before, there are a number of days that you get to visit different places, get acclimated to your surroundings, see yourself being buried or cremated in a service. It's part of closure.
If there's anyone that can help in bringing your voice out,
if you're holding on to anything, it doesn't mean you're a bad person and you're going to hell or you're going to be stuck forever. But the fact is, if you died in a traumatic accident, you may have not been ready to go. If you were angry about something that happened with someone, you may not be ready to go. If you miss your family members, your children, or your spouse, you may not want to go right away. And so there may be still some kind of emotional pain. Paramahansa Yogananda, who I consider to be my guru, he says, if that was the case, that death was the great escape and that we could just die and be angels, let us all go to the ocean now and drown ourselves and become angels at once. But he says that's not the case. You are who you are in this life. In the afterlife, you are still going to retain those qualities. So do the work now. Work on yourself now. Now is the time. That's the point of being here. That's what I believe. So it's not as clear cut as if you die, you go to hell, or you go to heaven. There's still some things to work out. All right, who's next?
Okay, upon searching the internet, I see so many paranormal experts that are calling up on Colby. Can he be in many places at the same time? And what if two or more call him at the same time?
It's a great question. First of all, we don't know that he's communicating with every single person. Let me just explain to you what I believe that happens when this communication is happening. Let's just say right now, I'm a spirit. So I'm just in the astral realm sitting here waiting, and so someone like myself would try to reach out. I believe some kind of portal opens up right here, like a little hole in the air, and it has a tunnel. A voice comes through, and it's the paranormal communicator, the spirit communicator, trying to communicate. I can, like the telephone can on the string, I can speak into that hole and give my message. Yes, this is me. No, I'm not over there. I can't come to you. I'm going to stay here. It's as simple as almost like a phone call. Now, if for some reason, let's say me being the spirit, wants to communicate with that spirit communicator asking for me, I can somehow go through that portal, go through that tunnel to the physical location where the spirit communicator is and interact with the gear and interact with them. At some point, I may be done and want to leave. Those portals open and close. I've heard many spirits talk about this before. Let's just say I was Kobe Bryant sitting here and all of a sudden a few different portals open up. I may give an answer and maybe one of them has a stronger connection that I notice, and so I may go through one of those tunnels to communicate with them. Hopefully that answers the question. All right, who's next?
When you're doing a spirit box session, why don't you leave the box alone when they're replying or answer them when they speak?
A lot of these responses that I hear, or that come through the box, I should say, I have to go back through the review afterwards and listen. It takes me multiple times, multiple passes going through a session in order for me to understand the messages, to hear them. My captions, by the way, are not fact. I'm giving you my best guess, and it's up to you to say whether you hear them or not. The longer you hear these responses, the more you'll make out. So as I'm doing the session, I may be checking different settings, not fully knowing which one is working the best. Who's here with me? Do you guys feel restricted in any way? But those connections kind of are like, they don't hold exactly for a long period. They are kind of evolving. So I have to be careful that I don't just stay on one setting, because I could be on a setting that doesn't really work that well the whole session and get nothing. That is the reason why I mess with the settings, and sometimes I don't respond to them when they say something. Who do we have next? What question next do we have?
How do you know that it's the spirits answering when you hear a word or phrase and that it's not just preloaded with responses?
It's a good question. How do we know these apps are really working? People don't trust apps. Nowadays, there's these deep fake videos and voice recognition. What's to say that, the app maker didn't load the app with a bunch of spooky or spiritual responses, or that it's got some kind of technology nowadays with these smartphones and tablets and everything else, that it's not hearing a question of mine and trying to give me some kind of answer? It's a great question. And to be honest, I don't like using a lot of apps. I use one app, which is the SCD2, and really I don't think there's anything that special about that app. It's cycling through different internet stations, and some of them is coast to coast and other things. Some of the topics could be about paranormal things. But again, I've said this before and I'll say it again, whether it's an app, whether it's a radio box, it doesn't matter. Not everything that's going to come through is going to be spirit, and we know that. We get some random responses, and I can tell you when I'm doing a session, I hear it and I say, oh, no, I think that might be, the radio station. I hate using apps with sound banks. I really don't like that. But if I ask a question and I get a direct response that is correct, that's spirit communication. One example I will just bring up and I will show you is when I asked this woman's father, what was the name that you called her when she was little that she didn't like? Right after, he gives the answer, Terry Ann. That was the right response. I can understand your feelings on the whole matter.
Dad, what name did I hate you calling me when I was little?
Thanks for the question. Okay, who's next? What other question do we have?
I would like to know, why do you get such significantly better results than most others that do this? Because they're like so much better that this leads people to kind of think that you're faking the results.
Okay, yeah, that's a really good question. I've heard this many times, and I will say that, when a skeptic poses a question, they either say, hey, I didn't hear what you just tagged as those responses, and when they do hear it, they say, oh, that just has to be fake. That bothers me, but at the same time, I also get it. If I didn't record some of these sessions myself, then I wouldn't believe it either. I have spent a lot of time doing this, and it is a 4-stage process. First is preparing myself through meditation and prayer, making sure I'm in a good space. 2 is making sure that my gear, my cameras, my equipment has proper batteries. The third part, knowing how to go through and review the session. The review is the most important, and I would say 90-something% of paranormal investigators or spirit communicators that do these types of sessions, they only do 1 and 2 and part of 3. They really don't go to the lengths that I go through, that Steve and some others go through, to make sure that we are extracting these responses. And then the fourth part is showcasing them properly. Hearing a response that you think says something and then putting captions on it is not properly reviewing the session, not properly editing the session so that it is presentable for anyone to hear. But I believe it's because of my connection. I am a practicing psychic medium, as I said, so there is the intuitive ability that I have, whether people say that that's bullshit or not or whatever. That's the reality. The reality is that if I start picking up something intuitively during a session, and I say, oh, I see this man, he's got glasses, or he's wearing a red shirt, or he's got, he's sitting down. Once I start picking up intuitive information, now all of a sudden, the responses start coming through the box and they're better. All right, moving on. Who else do we have? What other questions do we have?
So in the Bible, it states that you're not supposed to talk to the dead. And it's in a lot of the verses in the scripture. And I'm wondering, how do you believe that you're doing good if the Bible, condemns?
Well, this is the thing about that. There is a woman that is she's a Rev Christina Ricci. She wrote a book about this exact topic, and I'll put that on the screen right now for you all to see. It goes through in great detail how some of these Bible verses were misinterpreted, were put in for certain reasons to try to deter people from doing certain things. If you don't have a connection with a higher power, a God of your understanding, then I don't know if spirit communication, paranormal work is something that you should be doing. But I have worked on my connection with my God, and I continue to do so. It is literally the most important thing in my life. From the beginning of doing these sessions and hearing someone say, help me, I need help, I need light, to hear those responses and to not do anything about them, it seems cruel. To hear those things and say, no, the Bible says I shouldn't help you. I've always said this. I've heard so many wonderful messages of thank yous. You're kind and we appreciate it. I'd rather get to the end and find out I was wrong and know that I at least had compassion and tried to help, rather than being stuck in my beliefs. You know, beliefs are fine, but it's real experience with God that counts. It's real experience with helping people and being compassionate that really matters. Not sitting on some pedestal acting like we're too good. If people have died and they didn't have the understanding and they're on the other side, and I'm one of the few people that can hear them, and you better believe I'm going to try and help them.
From what I understand, the underlying message of your work is that consciousness exists after we die, which is pretty phenomenal. If it is possible to speak to someone after they've passed away, why isn't there more media coverage, and why haven't we seen more scientific papers about that form of afterlife research?
There are videos of mine that have gotten a lot of attention. There's videos of Steve Huff's that have gotten, millions and millions of views. So more and more people are discovering that this is real, but they're finding it in their own time. And why isn't mainstream media, mainstream science, finding this stuff and accepting it? It's done in a non-scientific way sometimes. It's done about feelings and emotions, intuitive feelings, very unscientific. There is a group, and I forgot the name, but there is a group, and his name is, one of the doctors is Dr. Gary Schwartz and I think Mark Pitstick. And these guys work out of a building in suits in the Afterlife Research Center. I forgot what it's called or whatever. And they've created something I think called the Soul Phone. And they send out updates. And they're really trying to do it on a scientific level, to the point that when we've asked to work with them or to even communicate with them, they didn't want to. They wanted to keep everything that they were doing hush, quiet, and they wanted to keep it very controlled. And I have to respect that. That's fine with me if that's what they want to do. But what they talk about is that there's some type of device called the Soul Phone that they're communicating with spirit, but that there needs to be a medium present to help create a connection. Well, that sounds exactly like what we're doing already. I am a medium. I have an intuitive ability that I've worked on to develop it. And what would you like to say, Carol? Tom misses you. He loves you. Is there any message you want to give me psychically that I can give to him? If maybe I can. If I can get it. I feel like I'm seeing parts of the service. I feel like she's grateful. Let's see, hold on. Something about blue flowers. I saw a blue flower. I have to connect on some level in order to communicate with the spirit. And then when I do, I'm able to capture real, undeniable, audible evidence, sometimes visual evidence. And, I'm going to keep on doing it. One day, more and more will accept it. What we're talking about is still so taboo. It's still so difficult to grasp. And so it's not something. We just now started to see the news playing UFO videos. We now just started to get admission from the government that they're investigating unidentified flying objects. Now, we never thought that would be possible or that would happen. But maybe this Dr. Gary Schwartz and Mark Pitstick will do more in the scientific community for the paranormal and spirit communication. Some of this stuff is just so undeniable, I don't know how anyone could deny it. All they could say is that, it's got to be fake. When someone is so skeptical, so locked in their beliefs, whether it is being a skeptic or being a very religious person, a very religious person and a skeptic are very similar and they don't realize it. They're stuck in their beliefs and they're not willing to look at any new information. And any new information that doesn't fit into their little box gets discarded and thrown out. My doubt has definitely played a part in this before. I have doubts. That's why I started doing this, was because I couldn't believe what I was seeing on different channels and on TV. So I did this work. So that's why whatever I show you is legitimate stuff, because it's what I was trying to find out for myself. And so that's my vow, is that anything I show you is from the heart. It's real. And I tell anybody else, keep seeking. Keep seeking. Don't stop. You personally need to keep seeking. and finding your connection to your own higher power, of your own understanding, finding out what faith works for you and what evidence can back up that faith and that belief. So, listen, I want to thank all the patrons that were a part of this session. This will help many people. If you ever see anyone asking any of these questions and you've seen this video, post this link in the comment section for them. Let them watch this. I love you all. I thank you all for checking out the channel. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, check me out on my other platforms, and you'll be able to, of course, communicate with wonderful people that helped me today. It's a wonderful community, and I thank you all. Till next time.